and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today's video going to be a post-match review of Celtic's 4-2 loss yesterday evening in the 8th and final Champions League game of the first phase. Celtic got off to an awful start, came back very strongly, and in the second half, although Villa were more on top, Celtic did have their chances to equalise or even take a lead. However, in the end, one or two wee errors at the back, one or two odd refereeing decisions, and Celtic ended up losing 4-2 and ended up 21st in the table, 12 points, goal difference -1. And we know that we're going to be playing either Real Madrid or Bayern Munich in the knockout playoff stage. In a couple of weeks' time. The draw for that will be at 11 in the morning tomorrow. In the video, we're going to have a wee look at the goals, a wee look at the stats, my own player ratings for the players, and we're also going to do a wee update on one or two wee bits of transfer news in and out, with no definite deals going through in the last 12-24 hours. However, quite a lot of speculation regarding 2 or 3 players coming in and 1 player at least leaving. Before we do crack on with the video, please just a wee quick suggestion, encouragement. If you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, please do click that subscriber button. 1 or 2 new subscribers every day does make me so happy. If you do like the video, do like the channel, please do click that like button. It does help boost the channel's analytics on YouTube. Also sends Celtic videos to more and more football fans and Celtic fans on YouTube. And do feel free to pop your own thoughts regarding yesterday's game, your own player ratings, your own thought about the game, and how you see the next couple of games against either Real Madrid or Bayern Munich in a couple of weeks' time in the knockout playoff phase. Celtic got off to the worst possible start. After 3 minutes, Aston Villa went 1-0 up. Some poor tracking back and midfield cover by Engels and McGregor allowed a 2-on-1 against Alistair Johnston. Nice ball inside Johnston, crossed by Ramsey. A bit of confusion between Trusty, McGregor and Scales as to who was marking who in the middle, and allowing Morgan Rogers a rather easy finish past Kasper Schmeichel, and so 1-0 down after 3 minutes. Villa straight back on top again, got the ball into Celtic's defensive left side area. Some poor passing. Rio Tati, poor pass back to Kasper Schmeichel, rather frantic, poor clearance by Kasper Schmeichel, straight back from the Villa midfield to Rogers. Scales then let Rogers go completely free, giving him a good 3 or 4 yards space. And Rogers smashed the ball above Kasper Schmeichel into the top left corner. Initially, I blamed Kasper Schmeichel for not saving it. However, the ball did take a rather nasty deflection off Scales' leg, which I think changed the trajectory and path of the ball. Alistair Johnston later did make a great clearance off the line, keeping Celtic in the game, and little by little Celtic did get back into the midfield battle. Bit better work from McGregor, Engels and Atati. Also because of that, allowed Taylor and Johnson to get more into the midfield, and indeed in the 36th minute Celtic pulled a goal back. Wee bit of interchange between Yang and Hattati. Hattati then freed Taylor on the left. Nice run and cross by Taylor. The ball then deflected off the Villa defender, and a very clever reflex volley by Adam Ida brought the score back to 2-1. And Celtic, much like Villa had done, having scored 1, they got a second goal almost straight away. 38th minute, beautiful backheel pass by Engels, freed up Hattati, lovely ball across the box. Ida beating the Villa defence for pace and anticipation, and battered the ball past the Villa goalkeeper. 2-2. Slightly disappointingly, when Celtic were on the attack, Villa hit them on the counter-attack in the 60th minute. Liam Scales got caught far too far up the pitch rather than trying to slow down the Villa counter-attack. He got just sucked in, lost the challenge, big space behind him. Villa got the ball into that space. Engels was tracking back. If we're being a bit cynical, he probably should have pulled back the Villa midfielder. Instead, he got out-muscled, then ended up with a 2-on-1 with Alistair Johnston, who had no real chance. The ball was then squared to Ollie Watkins, who hit a brilliant shot past Kasper Schmeichel. Then there was a very, very questionable penalty given against Austin Trusty. I didn't really see any contact between Watkins and Trusty that would have merited a penalty kick. There was a wee bit of a coming together, tangle of legs between the two players. Then Trusty cleared the ball with a nice tackle. Watkins didn't look for a penalty. Surprisingly, the French referee decided it was a penalty and VAR didn't overturn it. Happily, however, Watkins slipped in his run-up and hit the ball with both his right foot and the left foot, which is a free kick, and the ball ballooned over the bar. So probably justice that Watkins missed a penalty that, for me, should never have been given, and I wouldn't have been calling for a penalty at the other end when I watched it on replay, because there was no real contact that merited a penalty. Celtic did get a really nice run down the right-hand side by Adam Ida, getting in behind the defence. It looked to me that Lewis Palma was free at the back post and would have likely had a fairly easy finish to put Celtic 3-3. However, Ida went for a much more difficult front post shot, and the ball was bundled behind for a corner. So it was a wee bit disappointing. That was a chance for us to go 3-3. Instead, Ida probably didn't see Palma at the back post and instead went for an ambitious front post shot. Slightly surprisingly, Celtic did make a few changes. Later on came both Dane Murray and Daniel Cummings. Nice to see two young, very talented young up-and-coming players getting a chance. Hopefully it encourages Cummings to commit himself for 3-4 years at Celtic. I think he could well be, much like Dane Murray. I think both of them could be Celtic good players of the future, potentially even more than that. I think probably Rodgers was looking ahead to the game against Motherwell at the weekend, and for that reason took off Ida, but I would have been inclined to give Ida the last 10-15 minutes to see whether he could pinch an equaliser for us. Thought Murray actually played quite well to start with. However, it was his mistake. He got bundled off the ball. Ball was squared by Watkins to Rodgers, who evaded Kasper Schmeichel's dive and smashed the ball into the net 4-2. I think in the end, Celtic probably deserved a draw 3-3 out of the game. I think they were a wee bit unfortunate with the counter-attack goal, a wee bit unfortunate with the penalty kick that happily was missed, and Dane Murray a bit unlucky that he was bundled off the ball that led to 4-2, which I think was an unfair scoreline in the end. Had it finished 3-2, I wouldn't have grumbled either. I think Celtic tried very hard, played very well, but for the most part lost the game in midfield. Moving on to the stats for yesterday's game, I think it does show that Aston Villa were the dominant side. I think it also shows that the battle probably was lost in the midfield with Engels, Hatate and McGregor not really getting control, apart from maybe 15-20 minutes in the first half. And I think also the lack of midfield cover from Yang and Kudin was a major factor too, which meant that Taylor and Johnson weren't able to push forward to help in midfield either. And I think that's where the game was won and lost, and probably Aston Villa just that wee bit more clinical and sure and confident in the final third as well, both for creating chances and for putting them away. So the stats for the game: possession was 58-42 in favour of Aston Villa. Shots were 20 for Villa, 6 by Celtic, 8 on targets for Villa, 4 for Celtic. Off target 7-2 in favour of Villa, and they had 5 shots blocked. Celtic had no shots blocked. 3 saves for Kasper Schmeichel, 2 for the Villa goalkeeper. Touches in the box, 38-10. Again, that shows, I think, Villa much more effective getting the ball into and around the box. And that Celtic's final ball from out wide and from midfield just wasn't good enough. And corners were 4-4. Moving on to my own ratings for the players, I gave Kasper Schmeichel an 8. Don't think he really had much chance with any of the 4 goals. I was initially a bit critical for the second goal, but it did take enough deflections. I think that was a mitigating factor. A couple of balls out of defence by Kasper Schmeichel, not really up to his usual quality. However, he did make 3 excellent saves that kept the score down and kept Celtic in the game. Gave Alistair Johnson an 8 as well. I thought he defensively was very good, cleared all the ball off the line. Quite often he was the final Celtic defender and did a good job. Apart from very early in the game, I don't think Villa had as much ability down the left side as down their right side. And I think Johnson defended generally well. A couple of times he had to get into the midfield and final third to help Celtic create chances. And so I think Johnson was our best defender, so 8 for him. 7 for Austin Trusty. I thought he had a hard battle with Ollie Watkins for the whole game. A couple of times Watkins beat him, a couple of times Trusty beat Watkins. I thought Trusty actually had a good game against a very high quality player and was rather unfortunate for that penalty to be given against him. Bit of confusion between him, McGregor, and Scales that led to the first goal. Otherwise, I thought Trusty had a good game in defence and a good game distributing the ball as well. Liam Scales, I've given 5.5. I think he had a very poor match. I think he was largely at fault for the second goal, significant fault for the third goal. Quite a few times he lost the player he was marking. Quite often he gave players too much space, got into poor position, and his lack of speed never allows him really to recover from any errors. His distribution wasn't too bad and was less dithery, so hopefully these 80 minutes or so gives him a wee bit more match sharpness, as I suspect we probably will need him in the game against Motherwell and maybe even against Dundee in the next week or so, whilst Cameron Carter-Vickers recovers from injury. Greg Taylor I gave a 6 for. I thought defensively he was very poor, caught out for positioning, pace and strength on several occasions. Villa looked much more threatening down that right side. Taylor, however, did produce a great cross for the first goal, so giving him a 6, but defensively I think he was very much a liability, which was exploited. Callum McGregor and Arnie Engels both got a 6. Don't think either of them really had a particularly good game. 1 or 2 nice touches from McGregor in the first half and the second half, but didn't really take control of things, as should have been the case with such an experienced, high-quality player. And quite disappointed in his performance. This was the highest stage, and he didn't really step up for the team or the club or the fans. Arnie Engels, apart from his nice back-heeled pass to Hatate for the second goal, didn't really create very much for Celtic. Outmuscled quite a few times in the midfield battle, and of course it was his poor challenge that allowed Villa to get the breakaway at the halfway line that led to the third goal. Rio Hatate has given a 7, as is usually the case with Rio Hatate, quite a few poor passes. However, there were some brilliant passes, such as the one that helped set up the first goal and the one that directly set up the second goal. A couple of poor passes, one of which put too much pressure on the defence that led to our second goal. I personally would have kept him on for the duration of the match and taken off McGregor when they threw on McCowan, as I do think Hatate was playing quite a lot better than McGregor. Nicholas Kuhn and Yang I've given both 6 to, largely because I don't think they came back to help in midfield nearly enough, didn't come back to help in the defensive areas nearly enough. And I think that's where we missed Dyson Maida a lot in yesterday evening's game, in that Yang and Kuhn did very little in midfield and very little defensively. Yang had one nice pass in the whole game, otherwise hardly saw him. Kuhn, no real particularly impressive runs. Villa snuffed him out quite nicely on our right wing. He did cut inside a couple of times, however, his passes, shots, and crosses were all missing the target. And so just a 6 for both Yang and Kuhn. And finally, in terms of the starting 11, 8 for Adam Ida and man of the match. Thought he had a very good game, some very good runs, lots of pace, lots of strength, lots of good positioning. Got himself behind Villa quite a few times, and 2 very good finishes to give Celtic a half-time 2-2. And if only he'd managed to see Palma at the back post, there was every chance we could have gone 3-3. In terms of the subs, Paulo Bernardo, quite disappointing, gave us 6. He did have a few nice passes, but didn't really have any good influence on the game. Luis Palma had a couple of nice runs. 3 or 4 times, Taylor and McGregor failed to see a very good run by Palma down our left wing, their right. There would have been a couple of times, had McGregor seen the pass, that Palma would have had acres of space to run into on the right-hand side. But McGregor failed to see them, and to be fair, Palma didn't have terribly much influence in the game either, in what could well be his last game, as it does look like Olympiacos are about to put in a bid for Palma. Palma is said to be happy to go back to Greek football, and so it really comes down to whether Rodgers wants to cash in on Luis Palma now, or sell him now, hoping that we get another wide player in the next few days to replace him. As with Kuhn, Maeda, and Forrest injury proneness, I don't think we should really be going deep into the season with just Yang as our backup option alongside Jota. So 6 for Luis Palma. I give him 5 for Cummings, Murray, and McCowan. McCowan, I hardly ever saw what he did when he did come on for the last few minutes. And was it not for his dyed blonde hair, I would hardly have noticed he was on the pitch. Daniel Cummings, much the same, made a couple of nice runs, but really didn't look the least bit threatening. And I would have kept Ida on personally, although I suspect he was being kept for the game against Motherwell at the weekend, as at this point we really only have one specialist striker backed up by Maeda. And so it may be that Rodgers gave Cummings the last 10 minutes or so, both to try and integrate him into the first team squad, encourage him to sign a new contract for us, and also to rest Ida, keep him injury free for the weekend. Dane Murray, I thought, started quite nicely, but did give away that error for the 4th goal, so 5 for him. It would have been a 6 otherwise. McCowan has said 5. Now, you may have your own thoughts regarding the rating, so do feel free to pop your any additional or alternative thoughts into the comment section. Finally, just a wee quick roundup of transfer and loan stories. Celtic appear to be deep in negotiations with Brøndby regarding Matthias Kvistgaarden. Brøndby reluctant to sell Kvistgaarden at this time. Kvistgaarden is thought to be quite keen to come to Celtic. I think he is keen on the guaranteed European football. Negotiations appear to be on the price. Estimates ranging between 10 million and 13.5 million. And it does appear that interest from Eintracht Frankfurt and RB Leipzig for Kvistgaarden has died away, and so Celtic appear to be the only bidder looking to buy Kvistgaarden at this time. And so we'll need to see what happens over the next 4 or 5 days as the transfer window ends. And I think this could well be a deal, if it does go through, that goes through on Monday after a lot of backing back and forward between the two clubs, much as was the case with Engels in the summer window. Similarly, Sondre Orjasaeter of Sarpsborg, the young Norwegian wide left player, he is apparently keen to come to Celtic. However, Sarpsborg don't want to sell him, and it's thought that a fee of £7 million might well be required. But I think it is important for Celtic to get in a good, talented, wide player to go along with Jota, Kuhn, and Maeda covering those positions. Gustav Lagerbielke, who is away on loan at the moment, it's thought that FC20 are preparing a £3 million bid to take Lagerbielke to them in Holland permanently. I suspect that Lagerbielke will be keen to leave Celtic, as Brendan Rodgers doesn't seem to rate him, despite quite a number of very promising performances early in his Celtic career. And the reports are that Lagerbielke has been playing very well for FC20 and had quite a number of impressive games in the Dutch league and in Europe as well. However, it does look like both Palma and Lagerbielke will be leaving Celtic in the January window, or possibly instead in the summer window. Celtic do appear to be still in negotiations with Arsenal to bring Kieran Tierney in on loan for the rest of the season. That doesn't appear to have made any progress in the last 48 hours. However, Celtic appear to have a backup plan by taking on loan Tyrell Malacia, a 25-year-old Dutch left-back, plays for Manchester United. Has had 46 games for Man United, having played 136 for Feyenoord before that. Of those, 38 of those games for Man United and Feyenoord have been in Europe, so clearly quite an experienced player. He's played 8 games for Man United so far this season, however, is much more of a backup there. He's a player who's had quite a bit of problems with injury, a couple of operations, but is thought to be a very good left back who can also push forward into midfield, and so would look to be a good player to fit Celtic system. And so that appears to be a loan deal that may go through if the talks with Arsenal fall flat. And he certainly would be a good backup to Greg Taylor for the duration of the season, and may even take Greg Taylor's place. So we'll see whether the Malacia loan deal goes through. That finishes things off for today's video. We'll be doing further roundup videos over the next day or two, plus a preview of the Motherwell game on Sunday. And we'll also do a video or two on Monday, both post-match review of the Motherwell game, which is on Sunday afternoon, and maybe a video or two on the transfer window as it progresses and then shuts at 11 p.m. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.